You ever look at the cost of housing these days and just think, there has to be a smarter way?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a pretty common feeling, I think.
Or maybe you've got a bit of land, and you dream of putting something simpler on it, something more connected to,
Yeah.
well, to the earth.
Or just wanting less stuff and more intention in life.
Exactly. That
Yeah.
little nudge towards a different kind of living. We definitely get it.
It's something we hear about quite a bit, that desire for alternatives, not just cheaper, but different.
Well, today we're doing a deep dive into something I find really fascinating. Bikini houses.
Ah, yes. Gus from Rapintero and BikiniHouses.com.
Right. The concept itself, it starts simple, small structures, but then it just weaves in these layers of sustainability, community, a whole different way of thinking about construction.
It really does. It feels like it's tapping into a lot of those frustrations people have with the traditional way of doing
For
things.
sure. So, for this deep dive, we've been looking at Gus's material, his YouTube channel, where he explains the background.
Right, the philosophy behind it all, the actual building methods. And the website, too, bikinies.com, looking at the designs, the workshops they run.
And this allied builder network idea, which seems really central.
Absolutely central. We'll definitely unpack that. And we even managed to get some audio from a recent workshop down in Puerto Morelos.
Oh, cool. So we can hear directly from people actually doing this.
Exactly. Hear their experiences firsthand. So, the goal today is really to give you a solid understanding of bikini houses.
What makes them tick, right?
Yeah, the core ideas, how they're built, the nuts and bolts, but also this whole community aspect and what it could mean for people and, the planet.
We're aiming for those aha moments without getting totally lost in like technical jargon.
Precisely. Keep it engaging, keep it clear.
Perfect. So let's start at the beginning. Where did this whole idea bikini houses actually come from?
Well, from what we've gathered, Gus really started by looking back at the history of prefab housing.
Prefabricated stuff. Okay.
Yeah, he studied models in the US and Europe, where it's, got a longer track record than in Mexico.
And what did he find looking at those older prefab systems? Anything jump out?
A recurring problem, actually. These big, centralized factories. They often hit trouble when demand, well, fluctuates.
Makes sense. Big factory, lots of costs.
Exactly. Huge overhead, fixed costs,
Yeah.
makes them really vulnerable if the market dips. It kind of limits how widespread that solution can really be. It's a tough business model.
Yeah, you see that everywhere, that tension between scaling up and managing those massive fixed costs.
You do. The initial investment is huge, and then you've got those ongoing expenses if the market cools off even slightly.
It's a risky game. Very different from just building one house at a time on site.
Totally different. And Gus actually faced this himself when he thought about setting up his own workshop for these smaller houses.
Ah, so he ran into the same potential problem.
Right. The cost of the space, keeping a workforce on payroll.
Yeah.
It's a heavy burden if orders aren't consistently rolling in. You could end up losing money fast.
Mm.
So, seeing that vulnerability, both from history and his own plans, kind of pushed him to think differently, to find something more flexible, adaptable.
Floor layers of management, maybe.
Exactly. And there was a social angle too, right? Thinking about construction work itself.
Yeah, tell me about that, the temporary nature of it.
Precisely. He saw how when big projects end, workers who maybe traveled for that job are suddenly left hanging, no work, maybe no local support system.
That's a tough spot. The boom and bust cycle.
Right. It highlights how precarious that traditional model can be for the actual workers.
So it sounds like he was consciously trying to step away from that typical top-down construction world.
Definitely. Where there's often this big gap between the decision makers and the people actually, swinging the hammers.
And a feeling that maybe workers aren't always valued as much as they should be. Or the environment, for that matter.
That seems to be a core part of it. Wanting something more human-centered, more ecologically sound, that was a big driver.
Okay, so that brings us to how bikini houses actually started taking shape. People liked his small cabin designs.
Yeah, and he started sharing the manuals he'd originally made for, like factory production.
Wait, manuals for a factory?
Yeah, detailed step-by-steps for building efficiently in a controlled setting. He basically repurposed those internal guides.
And turn them into construction guides for anyone.
Exactly. Put them on the website. It's kind of neat, taking that industrial process thinking and flipping it to empower individuals.
But he knew he couldn't personally oversee every single build, right?
Oh.
The old master-apprentice model wouldn't scale.
No way. A small central team would hit a wall really fast. He needed a way to grow the impact without just building another hierarchy.
And that's where this allied builder idea fits in. It sounds really different from how construction usually works. No percentages, no fixed salaries.
It's the key, really. It's about creating a direct connection
Between who?
between the person or maybe a small business needing a simple, sustainable structure built and the skilled person who can build it. Carpenters, maybe architects focused on natural building, environmental engineers, people with the right skills.
So it cuts out the middleman, the traditional contractor company.
And that's the idea, a direct link. If you've got land and want a small cabin, you connect straight with a builder who gets this approach.
And how does that work practically? How do they connect?
Well, they work directly together. After the job, the client can give feedback, maybe a rating.
Ah, like a reputation system.
Exactly. Good work gets you more visibility, more recommendations within this network. Gus even talked about maybe an app, sort of like TaskRabbit, to make those connections easier.
Interesting. So the goal is this decentralized network, more transparent, fairer for the builders.
Right. And fostering this kind of new skilled trade focused on simpler, greener building.
It feels like Uberization of construction, but maybe in a good way, focused on skill and direct connection.
That's a good analogy. It's about matching the need for these simple structures directly with the people who have the skills.
And the philosophy here, it's clearly about more than just, four walls and a roof.
Oh, definitely. Financial accessibility is huge, making it doable for people usually pressed out.
Like who?
Small hospitality folks wanting unique cabins, or local landowners in Mexico, the ejidatarios, who hold communal land rights, giving them a way to use their land sustainably without selling out to big developers.
So it unlocks opportunities, not just lowers the price tag.
Exactly. Social impact is right at the center, empowering communities locally, building connections, respecting the environment.
Which can be the opposite of big developments, right? Sometimes they displace people or disrupt the local culture.
Sadly, yes. This aims for the opposite.
And you mentioned this phrase, silent revolution of self-construction.
Yeah, the idea that building your own place or working directly with one of these allied builders is an act of creativity. It's reclaiming some control.
Tapping into that basic human need for shelter, but also for agency. Doing something yourself.
Precisely. A more direct relationship with the places we live.
Okay, let's switch gears slightly to the practical stuff. What are these houses actually made of?
Well, the focus is simplicity, adaptability, using materials that are easy to get, often cheaper. Gus has done a lot of experimenting over the years.
Like that straw bale house you mentioned,
Yeah.
the 13-year-old one.
Yeah, in Tapulpa. Still going strong. It definitely makes you rethink assumptions about natural building durability, doesn't it?
It really does. What else?
He's worked with super adobe, basically earth-filled bags. Super durable, great insulation, keeps things cool or warm naturally.
It sounds like hard work.
Oh, definitely labor-intensive, lots of shoveling and tamping.
I can imagine.
So he's also looked at hybrid methods, mixing techniques, maybe using standard lumber like 2x4s for framing combined with other things.
But termites are an issue in Mexico with wood, right?
Big issue. He stresses you need proper precautions if you use standard lumber. He's also explored compressed earth blocks, rammed earth, other natural options.
So it's a pragmatic approach.
Yeah.
Local, sustainable when possible, but also what's practical and available.
That sums it up well. And a key model reflecting this is the F-Frame 12 cabin.
Okay, what's special about that one?
It's designed specifically for simplicity, using standard commercial materials you can get anywhere. The idea is someone with basic skills could build it following the guides.
Making it perfect for someone connecting with an allied builder for a straightforward project.
Exactly. It lowers the barrier to entry.
And it's modular, too. You can build it in stages.
Yeah, that's a neat part. Separate plans for the main cabin, a bathroom module.
Which can have a biodigester. What's that?
It's a system that breaks down waste, like toilet waste, into biogas you can use for cooking, and fertilizer. Pretty cool, sustainable tech.
Wow, okay. And a kitchen module, too.
Right, so you can build just the main cabin first, add the bathroom later, then the kitchen, based on your needs and budget. Lots of flexibility, especially if you're working with an allied builder phase by phase.
And then there's the tin kibble. Sounds minimal.
It is the ultimate minimalist option. Super basic, super low cost, really about that direct connection with nature, stripping away everything non-essential.
More than a tent, less than a full cabin.
Sort of. It embodies that less is more idea. Shows how simple the core need for shelter can be met, maybe through this allied builder network for someone needing something really basic.
Okay, let's really zoom in on this allied builders network in action. We've touched on it, But how does it really connect people needing simpler construction with those who can help? Give me the picture.
Okay, imagine you own a small plot of land. You dream of a little cabin, maybe for weekends, maybe to rent out.
Right.
Instead of going the traditional route, finding a contractor, getting quotes, maybe feeling overwhelmed by the complexity and cost.
Which can be a nightmare.
It can. Instead, you could tap into the Allied Builder Network. Find a local builder, someone who gets the bikini houses idea, who's skilled in these simpler methods, and who's actively looking for projects like yours.
So it's like a specialized marketplace for this kind of building. Small scale, sustainable focus.
You could think of it that way, yeah. It's fostering a community of builders who are into these methods and making them accessible. The website, BikiniHouses.com, is the hub.
Where you find info, connect with builders maybe.
Exactly. Learn the philosophy, see the models they typically build, and potentially find builders near you. And that app idea we mentioned would just make that search and connection even smoother. Filter by location, skills, ratings.
And because it's direct, builder to client, the pricing might be fairer.
That's a huge part of the appeal. Less overhead means more of the budget can go to the actual builder, paying them fairly for their skill and time.
And potentially making it more affordable for the person wanting the structure built.
Potentially, yes. It removes a layer of cost and complexity.
Now, those workshop attendees in Puerto Morelos, you said we had audio. What were their reasons for being there? What were they hoping to build?
Well, listening to them, it was varied. Some wanted personal cabins, escape pods, Others dreamt of starting small, eco-friendly tourism businesses. Maybe a few simple rentals on their land.
And they saw bikini houses and maybe connecting with allied builders as the way to do it.
Yeah, a way to make those dreams actually feasible. Without the usual headaches and massive investment, they saw it as more accessible.
And the workshop itself, actually building something hands-on. How did that affect them? Did it make them feel like they could work with an allied builder or even become one?
Hugely impactful from what we heard. They got their hands dirty, saw how straightforward the methods could be. It wasn't as intimidating as they thought.
Overcoming that fear of the unknown?
Totally. And realizing you don't need to be a master builder already. That confidence boost is crucial, whether you plan to hire an allied builder and understand the process better, or maybe you think, hey, I have skills, I could join this network and help others.
That empowerment piece sounds massive.
It really is. People talked about unlocking this basic human ability, thinking, wow, I can do this.
Yeah.
And that often lit a fire, made them want to keep learning, keep building for themselves, or maybe by connecting through this network. The teamwork at the workshop also showed the community potential.
Okay, let's tie this back to sustainability. How does this allied builder network specifically help build things more sustainably?
Well, fundamentally, by championing simpler methods and encouraging local, sustainable materials, the network inherently pushes towards more eco-friendly building.
Smaller footprint projects.
Generally, yes. Smaller scale, often less material intensive than huge conventional builds. And by empowering local builders, it encourages using regional resources, less trucking materials across the country.
And Gus thinking about specific woods, avoiding endangered ones. That fits right in.
It does. That attention to detail shows it's not just surface-level green stuff. It encourages builders in the network to be conscious of their material choices and environmental impact.
And this whole thing feels like it plugs into that bigger trend. People wanting a different lifestyle, maybe closer to nature, simpler.
Oh, for sure. The neo-rural exodus idea. The Allied Builder Network gives people a practical way to make that shift.
And for those local communities, the edutarios.
It gives them a real path to benefit from their land without selling it. They can work with allied builders or become them, create small-scale hospitality, keep the value local. It's empowering.
Instead of just watching a big resort go up next door.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It allows them to drive their own opportunities sustainably.
Creating that virtuous cycle you mentioned earlier, building right, living right, maybe running a small business right.
Yes. And the Allied Builder Network is the connector, the facilitator making that cycle possible. It links the desire for that life with the skilled people who can help build the physical part of it.
So if someone's listening now and they're really hooked on this idea, connecting people for simpler construction, where do they go to learn more specifically about the allied builders?
BikiniHouses.com is still the main place. Dig around there, you'll find info on the philosophy, the house models allied builders often work on.
And maybe how to find one or become one?
Potentially, yes. Or at least understand the principles. The site explains how it aims to function.
So you could be someone needing help or someone with skills
Well,
wanting to offer help within this framework.
exactly. Got land and a dream. Or are you a carpenter, designer, builder interested in this simpler, greener way? The network is designed to connect those dots.
So it really comes down to a more direct, community-focused way to get these kinds of projects built.
That's the heart of it, empowering both sides. The client needing something simple and the skilled builder fostering this network based on shared values,
Mm.
sustainability, community, fairness.
Okay, wrapping up then. What's the absolute core idea of this allied builder network within the whole bikini houses thing?
Look, at its core, it's about making the building of simpler, sustainable structures more accessible, more transparent, and just more human.
Hmm.
It's about directly connecting needs with skills, fostering this new wave of builders focused on ecology and community, and really giving individuals more agency over how and what they build.
It really makes you pause and think, doesn't it? Maybe some of the answers to big problems like housing costs or environmental issues. Maybe they lie in these simpler, more direct connections. Getting back to basics almost.
It certainly prompts that question. How can we create more direct links in other parts of our lives? Empower people, build stronger communities through more hands-on, collaborative ways of doing things. It's a compelling thought.